Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for the show. We're here with the Greenville Gab, and every week on Thursdays at 8 o'clock, we show up here. I show up here to answer your questions about Greenville, the upstate, and pretty much anything and everything in between. So, we're sharing everything about the real estate market. We're sharing fun articles that I find throughout the week, developments that I hear about coming soon. And at this time, we're here in the community because I know there's a lot of you that tune into these shows every week. Thank you for showing up, and you ask questions about what you are interested in, or different items that you're like, hey, Aubree, tell me more about this, or tell me more about that. So I love that you guys are coming here active, and we are here to answer any of your questions. So when you show up tonight, let me know where you are watching from. If you have any questions, or you want to chat back and forth about some things, would love to do that. I do have a special treat for us tonight. So my friend Brian McIntosh will be joining us here in just a couple of minutes. I figured that there's been a lot of talk about the real estate market, mortgages, and how those affect the housing market in general. So I'm going to add my perspective, and then also Brian has his perspective. Now, Brian's with Homeowners Financial. Many of my clients have worked with him in the past, and I want to be able to give you the best information possible. So we're going to bring him on tonight. So if you have any questions around how interest rates are affecting housing prices, or what can we expect maybe as we're going into an election year. Me and Brian are just going to have a back and forth conversation, and we'd love to have a back and forth conversation with you guys as well. So again, just put in the comments, and we will kind of go from there. So, all right. Rochester, New York. Hey, guys. Hi, McGuire's. Excited to have you guys here tonight. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then, all right, we have a question here. And then I'm going to go ahead and read this out. I'll probably put it back up here in a second. But the question for tonight is, I think, so last week, inventory is on the market for about 30 to 45 days. What about townhome and condo markets? Is it about the same? So I will definitely be addressing that tonight as we talk about just the interest rate, the housing market, and everything in between there. So here we go. First things first, I thought this was interesting. So I'm going to share a quick article, and then we are going to jump into kind of some of the meat of what I want to talk about on the show tonight. With make sure I've got all of my stuff here. So we have Floridians, you guys that are from Florida and you're relocating here. There are 7 states apparently that, according to Insider, you are looking at to relocate. They are looking specifically at Google and what people are searching, and a lot of people are looking at the South. So the Carolinas, Alabama, Georgia. Number 7 on the list was Alabama. I know personally, like, my dad is in Huntsville. Kind of looking at these neat stats here, the typical home prices, the amount of people that move there, people that are looking at homes from Florida into Alabama. Number 6 is New York, Texas. Number 4 is where South Carolina shows up. So here, percent of Florida shoppers looking at homes here are 1.6%. Total Floridians who have moved here since 2021. That's not that far back there, guys. 14,905. And I thought this was interesting. So this kind of shows where the average price point, I would say, of the state has kind of moved if you look at it from a state perspective instead of just a local market. So our state's price point, I would say, is in the upper 300s. In the upstate area, we're more in the like 325 to 350 range, is an inching higher every month, it seems. Let's see here. People are also looking at Tennessee, North Carolina. We have a lot of people that look at Charlotte here as well. Asheville areas, North Carolina, and then Georgia. So if you are looking in any of these states or you're trying to decide between where you want to land, I would say go ahead, like reach out to me. I have a lot of different connections in these different markets, people that would love to chat with you more if you are looking to sell a home in Florida or New York or something like that. Then I know local real estate agents there in your area also that I'd love to connect you with. So I thought this was cool. And I have a funny story for a little bit later on tonight. But I'm going to go ahead and we are going to introduce Mr. Brian McIntosh with Homeowners Financial. Thanks for joining with us.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
All right. Well, okay. So we're going to jump right into it. We talked about a whole bunch of different things before the stream started tonight, and I'm kind of interested to have this conversation with the people that are watching with us, and also like you guys that watch on the replay. If you have questions and you want me to send them to Brian, or you want to contact Brian, I'll make sure that we put your contact information in the show notes here. That way they can go down and email you or give you a phone call if they have any specific questions, or if you're relocating here to the area and you're looking for a great lender, you might as well reach out to Brian here because he knows what he's talking about. So anyways, all right, Brian. So here's the deal. We're all hearing about it on the current like news and goodness, like everybody's talking about it because interest rates are headed, like to me and to anybody who's bought a house in the last couple of years, they feel like they're going sky high. Are they actually going sky high?
That's a really good question, and it's about perspective more than anything else. Because there's a whole plethora of reasons for why rates were where they were at one point, right? We know that we came out of the rates, really in the twos more or less, and they've been going up ever since. So it feels super sky high. Not really wanting to beat the drum here on, you can look back in the 80s and see how the rates were in the teens because that was a completely different time. But
totally have my parents doing that right now.
Right, exactly. Oh, you don't know anything about it. My rate was 15% when I bought my house. But yes, it was $50,000-$60,000 when you bought your house at that time, most likely. Granted, also people were making less money then. So there's some proportions that you have to interject in that conversation. But it does feel very painful. And because of what we've been used to, what we've become accustomed to, which I really believe was artificially low. And I think
like
it's more
the
about
2s and the 3%. I think
exactly.
I have a friend of mine even that hit it at like the perfect time and got something like a 1.98% interest rate at one point.
I tell a lot of my clients when I bought my first house in 2018, my interest rate was 5.125. And that just happened to be the highest rate at that time. I mean, it immediately, not too long after, came back down, and we slowly, from that point on, actually slowly made our way down to the 3s and ultimately down to the 2s. And to your example, where some people were able to get a rate that started with a 1. But right. But to answer your question, the thing about it is the rates, there really isn't too much on, and I'm not trying to be a fear monger here, but there doesn't seem to be too much in the way at the moment from keeping rates going up either.
Okay, so why would interest rates be going up? Like for those of us that like, we've only seen interest rates at like, I mean, when I bought my first house, it was 6%, and then they kept going down and back up a little bit. This is the highest I've in my adult life have ever had an interest rate.
Right. For a lot of, well, yeah, for a lot of us. So to make the answer not super complicated, it really revolves around the Fed and what they're doing. And
Okay.
when I say the Fed, I mean more like the Federal Reserve. So when you hear in the news about the Fed raising their interest rate or pausing a rate, they really control the cost of overnight funding or overnight financing, for lack of a better way to explain it. As in other
Mhm.
words, how much does it cost to borrow money from the government? And they keep increasing that. And that their reason for it is they're trying to bring down inflation. And the only way in their mind that they can control to bring inflation down is control spending.
Uh-huh.
So inflation, just simply put, is too much money chasing too few goods. And when
Right.
that happens, things cost more money, right? So how do you keep people from spending money? You make it harder for them to borrow money so they can go spend it, right? Your credit card rate's gone up,
Mhm.
car interest rates have gone up. And so
Right.
why are we continuing to see it to move up? There's a term being thrown around a lot, and it's higher for longer, meaning the Fed is not looking to cut back on their interest rate. They may not necessarily eager to make the rates higher, but they're not, because of this careful attitude, if you will.
Mhm.
Trying not, I don't want to be too critical and interject too much opinion on how I feel about the Fed,
Oh
but
dear.
they, because of this attitude, the markets aren't particularly jumping at buying mortgage bonds or treasury bonds, which is just keeping mortgage rates elevated and pushing them up a little bit higher.
Okay. Gotcha. So before we got started tonight, we were talking about like I have listings that have been sitting on the market. They're just now like all of them are starting to pop a little bit. So like I've had houses that have been on the market since June. And I have one in particular that we got a counter offer on, and they blamed it on interest rates, basically.
Mm,
So I'd love to address that specifically because I know that there's people that are coming into the area that like they may not need financing
mm,
necessarily. It might be a cash sale even. So I guess I want to talk about like for those of our viewers that are selling a house, like should they just keep lowering their price?
yeah.
Or should they
Wow.
maybe offer something creative like seller buy downs or those seller concessions? So
Yeah.
I know that you have some like rates and some numbers and so on. So let me know when you want me to share the screen and we can put it up here.
Let's do it. Yeah, you can throw it up, and we'll just go through it column by column. So what we're showing here are three different options, and the first column on the left here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with a benchmark, right? We need a point of reference so
Mhm.
we can figure out how these options, these alternative options, help a buyer with purchasing a home. In this case, naturally, if we're talking interest rate, this is not going to involve a cash buyer. This is going to involve someone who's
Right.
financing, right?
Yeah.
So starting over in the left column, I'm just going to highlight a few things, a couple of points here, because I know there's a lot of numbers. So on this house that we were talking about, right, just a proverbial house, let's say the asking price is 380 for it, and right now current rate, 8%, and what we're looking at is a 30-year term, and the
Mhm.
payment, and this is just principal and interest. So for those of you watching, just letting you know, really for simplicity's sake, we're just doing principal and interest, which just means
Mhm.
it's strictly the loan repayment itself, kind of like a car payment. That payment is the loan repayment. And so that would be our benchmark, 2648 on this house at 380 with 5% down at an 8% rate. Now we got a couple options here, right? When we start talking about interest rates and what's been going on, we know that has had an effect in some cases on price, right? A lot of people believe
Right.
that higher rates mean prices are going to come down, or if a property's been sitting for a little while, then it must be overpriced. Or if I get a lower price, that means a better payment, which is not wrong, right? So
Right.
let's say we get a price of 365, right? Let's say we
Mhm.
negotiate at 365. The rate is still 8%. The payment's better though. The payment's better by about $104. which is nice. You can't argue with that payment's actually better. But I have an
Yeah.
alternative to that. And that's, you mentioned seller buy down, right?
Right.
These seller concessions or seller credit. And just for some of those who may not be familiar with it, because I've had clients ask me, what is seller credit? That's
Mhm.
when you negotiate the seller to help pay for closing costs or pay for the cost of buying your interest rate down. And that's the example that we're going to show here on this third column on the far right. So under our seller buy down, let's say, and let's say it's the same $380,000 house. And but what we're going to do is we're trying to, it's part of negotiating, right? So we're going to try to make it fair for everybody, right, Aubree?
Yeah,
As you do listings, one thing you're trying to do is you're trying to negotiate for your client and make sure they get the most.
absolutely.
Yep. And you as a buyer's agent also understand the same thing, right? But there is a balance because we know
Yes.
that there are costs on the seller side, right? They're not just selling this big gigantic house for free.
No.
So let's say in our example, we offer 390, right? Because we want to get $10,000 to help buy our rate down, but we don't have it in cash. So we're going to ask the sellers
Right.
to help us pay for that. Well, 390 purchase price, and we get our interest rate, we buy it down to 7.25, which
Okay.
brings our payment down to 25.27. What I think is amazing about this is that even though the price is up by 10 grand, we use that $10,000 to buy our interest rate down, which brings our payment down to 25.27, which is actually almost $20 lower than if we took the $15,000 sales price reduction.
Hmm.
Okay. And that goes against conventional thinking because you're going to say, well, first off, that price between the price reduction and the seller buy down that was at $25,000 higher,
Yeah.
but we were able to get the rate down. So what we're looking at here is when you're negotiating, you're trying to win that house, right?
Yeah.
You want it to be a win-win for everybody. You're most likely not going to be able to get that. If you send in an off contract for 365 on a house, someone's asking for 380, it's going to be very hard to get a yes. But if you go
Right.
in and say 390, take 10 grand of that, help me use that to buy my rate down. Essentially, we're financing to buy our rate
Right.
down. I get a better payment than a house, either a house price at 365 or we're getting it negotiated 365. And a little bit of that money, though, that 10 grand, actually, I don't want to say this closing cost down here is the closing costs are really about the same. It
Yeah.
actually cuts into it a little bit. And this is just down payment, by the way. So you're actually cutting into some of your money that you owe. So you spend less money to make it happen. So lower payment,
Yeah.
less money needed for closing. And I think everybody wins right there. One other thing I
Mhm.
want to show you, I want to scroll down, is savings.
Okay.
So check this out. Over 3 years of making payments, we're going to do a comparison here. So the price reduction, so if we took 15,000, we negotiated 15,000 off the price, kept at 8%, you spend $3,300 less over the course of 3 years compared to the asking price, right? So if we just
Mhm.
took 380, 8%, no credit. But if we took that seller, if we do the seller buy down, right, the 390 with the 10K to buy our rate down, you
Yeah.
save $7,200 compared to the benchmark. And that's almost 4 grand better than the lower purchase price. So you're gonna realize more savings a lot faster.
So yeah, so basically okay, this is what I'm hearing, and this
Yeah.
is what um anybody who's coming here to buy a house, or if you're selling a house, I think in pretty much any market right now, this would go to be the same thing there. Um One, the seller gets to net more money. The buyer gets a lower monthly payment, as well as a higher savings amount over the
Mhm.
course of 3 years. Um, that's a win-win situation if I've ever heard it. Why? So I guess the question then is like, why wouldn't you want to do this if you came in with an offer that was like three lower than list price? You're financing, you're having to use financing. um this just makes sense
Yeah.
if you can basically increase the price and it's still going to appraise. As long as it's still going to praise, which I think in this market, at least what I'm seeing, is housing prices are still staying pretty steady. Like we're having to make adjustments here and there,
Mm,
but it's not like we're dropping hundreds of thousands of dollars in order
right.
to get a buyer. I think it's more of like, and Brian, you work with a lot of realtors too, like the realtors who can think outside of the box and go, okay, there's a different way to do this. This is why
Mhm.
this makes sense. And then how about we try this? Those are the buyers and the sellers that are winning in this
Yeah.
market.
Hmm.
So, okay, so tell me more about like, okay, so I have a lot of people right now that are also saying, okay, well, I'm gonna wait because the interest rate is gonna keep going up, apparently, according to I don't know, CNN or Fox News or MSNBC, whichever one they
Right.
watch. I think they're all fake, but whatever. So, but we're hearing like there's a fear story that's happening over interest rates going up. What's the actual cost of waiting? What do you think's gonna happen?
Yeah, I'm gonna try out a little technology piece right here. I'm gonna share a different
Okay,
screen real fast,
cool.
and boom, it worked. That was easy.
Yay, we did
Thank goodness for English. I'm glad I can read. All
it.
right, so we're gonna shift gears a little bit now, and I know there's a lot of numbers on here, but I'm gonna try to do my best, like I did on the other chart, and that's really just we're gonna focus on just a few key points here. Okay, so
Okay.
when we talk about waiting, because like as you mentioned, there are some people naturally so I think I'm going to wait. Why? Because there's a lot happening right now that makes us uncomfortable, and the easiest thing to do is remove ourselves from a situation, right? So let me just
Mhm.
wait and see if it
Yeah.
gets better. The crazy
I
thing
mean,
is,
I had people like 3 years ago that said, "We're just gonna wait, like, COVID's crazy," and,
mhm,
so well, those people are, like, the people that chose not to sell their house then, or they chose, like, not to go ahead because the market that you sell in is also the market that you buy in most
yep,
likely, most of the time, and, like, here in the Upstate, I know that we saw appreciation, like, 14 to
yeah,
20% in some areas. Like, I have
mhm.
friends of mine that, like, have 6 kids in a 3-bedroom, 1,400 square foot house, and they literally can't afford to move now because they waited.
Yep,
So,
accidental landlords, or your lock interest rate locked into your house.
yep,
Um, and the big number one there again is equity, right?
yeah,
That's one of, if there's anything that that really is has remained the same, as strong equity. So very similar stories, right? I've had clients, I had a client back in 2020 that said they wanted to wait, and they waited 3 years before they bought a house. Did the math for them, they missed out on $75,000 in equity that they could have built
oh,
for
that
themselves.
hurts. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Oh,
So
that's terrible.
if there's a moral to the story, if there's an easy explanation for why I could tell you waiting is terrible without showing a graph, it would be equity. And to really illustrate what that means, it's going to be in this chart right here that I'm showing you on the
Okay.
screen. So let's say we're talking about that 390 purchase price again. Now,
Yeah.
this one I didn't do the rate buy down. I just did a $390,000 purchase price. But so here's the example, right? You buy a house for 390, 5% down at 8% interest rate. Um, Total monthly payment. Now, this one does include all the other your escrows and all that, but let's just say payments 3255 on this. So 6 months from now, rates could be very much easily in the 9%, somewhere in the 9% range, very
Why do you
easily.
think they're going to 9? Are we gonna see, like, are we gonna see the 80s happen again?
That's a good question. I don't know where the ceiling is, and nobody really does either.
Okay.
You heard me talk about this in the past, and a lot of economists, a lot of other
Yeah.
lenders, we all believed by spring earlier this year we would see rates back down into the fives, and it was just based off of what we thought the Fed might end up doing. There's some things that we didn't think that were going to happen, right? We didn't think that the war with Russia and Ukraine would have bled over into this year.
Mhm.
Even right now, nobody saw the Israel Hamas thing breaking out. Um, I mean, there's a lot of things. Inflation is still hot. We were expecting things to kind of come back to normal, and they just haven't yet, right?
Yeah.
So based off of the economic things that we've been seeing happening with inflation, with supply chains, with you can name a number of different things. there's just not much evidence there that the Fed is seeing evidence that they can stop what they're doing and reverse course. And unfortunately, that course reversal, lowering rates, is not going to happen overnight. And that's why we think rates are going to keep moving up. So hopefully I made that as vanilla of an explanation as possible.
No, I got you. I got
perfect,
you. So
perfect.
we're looking at like 9-10% right now.
Yeah. So I mean,
the next 6 months.
Yeah, next 6 months, 9-10%. Even if I even went out a year, so third column over here, you can see I got a 10% going on there. The other thing that I want to point out in this top row is you see that the home value goes up. So pretty, I mean, it's fairly modest compared to where they have been, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to see 15% anymore.
No.
Maybe 4 or 5% year over year. That's what the home
That's
values
about
are doing.
normal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
was
think
going to say
Greenville
pre-COVID.
normal appreciation is somewhere between like 4 and 7%.
Right. So the thing about it is this: is if you look at the payments, waiting 6 months mean your payment could go up $300. Waiting a year mean your payments could go up $700 versus right now. And let's say rates do kind of come back down, but I got 9.5% a year and a half out. And you can say, well, Brian, why is that rate? How's that a rate coming down? I mean, 9.5 is not a lower rate. Well, it's a lower rate from where it was, where it hit the topped out at. And that's the hard part is if you're waiting and the rates are going up, we don't know where the ceiling is. So if rates do come back down, which is what does that mean, right? What if we hit 13%? Is 11% with a rate having come back down? And if you're waiting for that rate to come down and it never happens, man, is that a mistake or what? And really, to get to the nuts and bolts of it right here, this is the one where I tell a lot of people, if the higher payment doesn't really motivate you, then missing out on equity should. As we told you earlier, right? Missed out on 75,000 over waiting for 3 years.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: waiting 6 months on a 390 house can cost you $6,000. Not as big of a deal, but if you waited a year and a half, you're talking about missing out on $26,000 of equity in your house by waiting, and let alone the higher cost, right? So waiting for lower rates, I wouldn't do it if I were you. And let's say if you buy the house now and the rates do come down, well, guess what? You're still in a better position, because I'm going to ask you this question: if rates start coming back down, what's going to happen?
Prices. Oh, hold on. Let's see here if there's somebody in the comments, because I'm actually interested to see if people are listening, because I know what's going to happen if interest rates start coming back down. So interest rates start coming back down. All of those people that were waiting on the sidelines, even here in Greenville, we've seen our inventory numbers go up. There's more houses sitting on the market for longer. But let's say those interest rates do start coming back down and everybody goes, ooh, interest rates are going back down. What ends up happening? If you know, put it in the comments.
No spoilers.
Spoiler. Here it is. Yeah, so drum roll, prices go up.
Right.
Surprise. Which means, that you got pre-approved for $250,000. That means that $250,000 house is now a $280,000 house whenever interest rates start going back down, because then everybody else goes and tries to buy a house. It's ridiculous.
Yep. And you are the beneficiary of being able to refinance, use that equity that you've grown into, maybe putting you in a better position, right? Lowering your payment instead of being with the crowd. Yeah, I was just gonna say there really isn't too much drawback to making, if you're in the market to buy, there isn't too much drawback to make that decision to buy right now.
Yeah, no. And so a lot now, I know that you don't deal with my cash people. Like, we have a fair number of people that are relocating to the area that are cash buyers. Here's what I see the effect also, because I want to speak to them also. If you're coming to the area and you are looking at, okay, cash, how does this affect me? Aubree, you're talking about interest rates. Brian, thanks so much. You seem like a great guy, but we're not going finance. What ends up happening? Um,
Mhm.
the thing is, like, the market price is the market price. And cash offers, I would say you're going to be able to negotiate the price. You're
Mhm.
going to be able to maybe, like, the house has been on the market for 45, 60, 90, 120 days. You're going to be able to negotiate that. And pay attention. Like, your realtor has different things that they can put into offers as well. So I think it's all about a little bit of creativity going from there. So, all right, Brian, what else? Is there anything else that, like, if you had to tell somebody who is relocating here to the area about your interest rates, about financing, is there anything that they need to know?
I think you hit the nail on the head, and that was being creative. One of my favorite quotes is from a very well-known real estate agent, Ryan Serhant. I've watched,
Hey.
yeah. One of my favorite quotes, though, is everything in life is negotiable. Everything is negotiable. So don't be open to alternative solutions, right? Not just one. You mentioned it earlier. I don't, you said I don't understand why people wouldn't use the ability to buy their interest rate down, but it goes so hard against conventional thinking of increasing the price to use that to
Right.
finance a lower rate. It's you just got to be open. That would be the best advice that I have is being open to alternative options, something
Mhm.
that sounds a little funky, but in the end, it works out for you. Even though it just sounds weird, I was just be
Yeah.
open.
Yeah. Gotcha. I think that's great. All right, before I let you go, you have to tell me, so the that you guys that are coming and watching here, I want to jump over into the comments and let's see here. All right. Robert just came in here, said, I'm thinking of buying a home for retirement in the downtown area. Do you think prices will come down in the next year? I have my opinions. Brian, what do you think? Are home prices going to come down with interest rates?
That's a very tough question. Um, my knee jerk reaction is no, and it's really about
Okay.
supply and demand, right?
Right.
And downtown is very high demand, and you mentioned it, right? There's a lot of cash buyers.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have people that are, especially, we have a lot of people coming to Greenville from other places with cash, with equity.
Yeah.
Um, there really isn't too much stopping them, right? So supply and demand is really going to be an issue. As demand is high and supply is going to remain low, and especially in a downtown area where there isn't really much room for added inventory. You're going to have that inequity in that supply demand, which is going to keep prices elevated, either growing or sustained, right?
Yeah.
We both said maybe 5%, 4 or 5% is probably going to be. Um, I think it's a good number to run with.
Mhm.
So to answer Robert's question, not really expecting that 15, 20% crazy increase in price, but to think that they're going to come back down, I don't think so. So many people get 2008, they think, oh man, this is going to be '08 all over again.
Yeah.
'08, '08, all that stuff was about low demand. There was way more houses to go
Hmm.
around than what people actually wanted. Now it's the exact opposite.
Hmm.
So I would
Yeah.
say I don't think they're going to go down, but I'd like to hear your answer.
Well, so my answer to that is one, I agree with you. I don't think prices are going to go down, especially like, so you do just a regular Google search, Greenville, South Carolina, and the pictures that show up, the research that shows up starts with downtown Greenville. And so I think when it comes to that, I think we're only going to see prices either stay steady, maybe see about a 5 to 10% um, wiggle in pricing. It's either going to go up or go down depending on how new it is. Because
Mm,
here's the thing: if there's some beautiful condos downtown
mm,
that, and also older historic homes that, I mean, they're not brand new, okay? They might need some renovation or some upgrades. But people are walking into them and they're not willing to pay the prices.
Mm.
So, and I think this is, I mean, I walked into a $1.1 million condo a couple months ago, downtown, just off the Reedy River. I mean, the view was beautiful. It was perfect. But it had a DIY kitchen. It needed new carpets.
Ooh.
Like all of the lighting fixtures were dated. And I was like, there's no way I would pay 1.1 for this because I have to come in and do all this work. And then I fell into the buyer trap of thinking this is going to cost so much money. When really, when I think logically about it, it's only going to, I mean, replacing countertops, carpets, light fixtures. When I'm not moving walls, it really isn't that expensive, and I would only increase the equity. So I would say, like, regardless of where you're looking, if you're looking downtown, if you're looking in the suburbs area, like, Greer, Taylor's, Simpsonville, Malden, even like out in Fountain Inn, lots of you guys are interested in Travelers Rest. Like, prices are going to stay pretty steady. I closed on a house this week with SK Builders. It was a $535,000 house. If they were going to go sell that house tomorrow, I'd put it on the market for probably close to 575, 600.
Isn't that crazy? That's just absolutely amazing.
They started building it a year ago. So like that's where we see the cost of waiting, the appreciation of certain areas. So I don't think they're coming down. If you do see prices coming down, they're adjusting. It's not the real estate crash apocalypse that's happening.
The market's doing its job, right? The market's dictating what the price is.
Yeah.
And you mentioned builders, and that's a really key component of real estate. Really, and that's especially in
So
our
what
area.
do you do whenever, like, builders offer a lot of incentives, okay? And like we have people that are coming in all of the time. They're like, well, let's go ahead and build. They're offering me a 5.75 or a 6.2% interest rate.
Right.
What do you tell those people? Because they're getting $10,000 in return for using that lender.
Right. So actually, there's a couple of things. There's a conversation that needs to be had going back to what we just had earlier about taking that seller credit, right? Getting that seller concession from an existing home. For whatever reason, people still, which is mind-boggling to me, and it might be mind-boggling to you too.
Okay.
That there are still buyers who don't know. Their agents haven't told them about seller credit on an existing purchase, right? Because loan, for example, an FHA, because a lot of these loans where you go with a builder and they're offering this amazing interest rate. First off, the house has probably already been built. It's going to be ready to close on it within 45 days because these loans, like, let's say it's a 6.25% rate, but you've got to close on this in 45 days. And there's a whole explanation for that versus having one built from the ground up. You're not getting that for a 6 to 12 month build time versus on an existing home, right? You've got a lot more inventory to choose from. You could get seller credit like $10,000. You could negotiate more. There's a lot. I've seen some crazy stuff lately. Okay. So I'm not trying to get too weird, but like FHA lets you go up to 6% seller credit. That's a huge number. Don't go around and think you're going to get that all the time, but it's possible. But my point with that saying is builders aren't the only ones who can give incentives to make your financing terms much more, to make more attractive. You can do that on an existing home. The other thing too, the other part with the amazing interest rate from these builders, they're out there. Like I said, they're on inventory that needs to be built right now, right? So your ability to go and customize whatever you want to do on the house, maybe not as much as you like, right? So if you are doing new construction, keep in mind, you don't have, one of the things that I was talking about it yesterday, was long-term locks. So a lot of times when you go do a new construction, you may float your interest rate. And this has really been kind of a thorn in the side of builders over the past year and a half now of canceled contracts. People go under contract for a property and they get their pre-approval. So last year, let's say you went under contract for a house in March this year, right? And your interest rate was, I don't know, 6.25%. And it's going to be ready in September. Well, guess what? your interest rate now is 7.5 in September, but you can't qualify for it. Now you can't get the house because you've had to wait 6 months.
Right.
And my math probably was a little off there. I really wasn't thinking about March and September and how many months. Hopefully I'm
But
close.
that's actually not too terribly different. Like we were seeing probably 5s to 6s back in March.
Yeah. So I mean, what's happening is now you lose out on the house versus, you could do a long-term lock. Now, most lenders probably would do a long-term lock. I don't know what some of these in-house lenders do. They may not do that, but do a lock for 120 days. You can lock
Yeah.
your interest rate, get a float down. So you have kind of a little bit of protection there. If the rates do come back down, you can float it down before closing, get something a little better. But I would say that would be my response. You've got more options than just builders to get those incentives.
Yeah, I think that we need to like be preaching that more to people, especially as we see those interest rates going up, and figure out how to get the monthly payments and make this affordable. Because I mean, my brother is one of the people that says, I'll never be able to buy a house because everything's getting priced out of my range. And I'm like, but dude, if you just went and did this differently and thought about it, you could be a homeowner in your 20s instead of like not ever owning a home, basically, is where he's headed. But
fair enough.
It's terrible. So all right, so totally off topic here, not necessarily from the area, but tell, like, if you could live anywhere in the upstate, where would you live?
It's very biased. Simpsonville.
Oh, tell me. Simpsonville. Why? Because I am very biased because I'm in Travelers Rest. Why Simpsonville?
Well, I'm there, so I made that choice, right? I live in Simpsonville, but the location where we're able to, I could hop on the highway so quickly. Everything that we need as far as we need to go to the store for something, it's all right there. Cute little downtown. Go get some ice cream. We can walk. We can actually walk from our house to downtown.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yep. Go to Vaughn's, hang out at Vaughn's. It's a great spot. The location for us is great. We really like it. And we've been in various parts of town. And you know what? I went North Greenville. So TR, I understand TR. And look, what they've done in Travelers Rest with the downtown area.
The Princeton development and everything like that. Like it's bomb.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I remember the days prior to a lot of those changes where there really wasn't anything much to talk about downtown TR. If you were going to TR, probably someone would say, "Why are you going to TR? For what?" But now people say go to TR. They're going to go. There's so many places and things to do there.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So I understand your bias 100%.
Okay. So Simpsonville is where you would live, because obviously you've made the choice. You live there, you love it. Walkability is great.
Yeah.
The same stuff I say about Travelers Rest, because where I live, I can walk to the Swamp Rabbit Trail. I can be on Main Street, and I don't live in a crazy luxury neighborhood or anything like that. It's a normal neighborhood. And we can do that.
Right.
So cool. All right. And then if someone is coming to visit, and trying to decide if this is where they want to live and want to land, what is maybe like 1 or 2 things they've got to check out?
Oh my gosh.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, man, that is tough because there's so much that has changed over the past 15 years I've been here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say, I don't know if this is where this would rank. Bald Rock is such a cool spot. Okay. Bald Rock is so unique. And really to prove a point number 1 would be you don't have to go far to enjoy the mountains, right? You don't have to go far to get out into nature to do something fun. And it's free. That was great when I was in college. Bald Rock was great because it was free. Yeah, but the view was just amazing. It was just so cool. And then, another thing. Then there's so many cool things that have popped up, right? Because you've got, I love Gather, or hey, we've got some friends right out in Greer that opened up Cartwright Food Hall. right?
Yes, the Canes
And
open up Cartwright. You have to go visit Cartwright.
right. I mean, Greer did such a great job renovating the downtown area as well.
Mhm.
You got to go visit there. Downtown Greenville is, if there's a number one place you always take a visitor, it's always downtown Greenville. I know for us people,
You have to go
Greenvillians who
walk the bridge. Have to
the
do that.
bridge, look, the park, the bridge, a ball game. Look, you probably remember the days when you probably didn't want to walk down the west end of
Oh.
downtown, right?
Oh, yeah, like, you
But
stopped right there at Falls Park. You could maybe go to, like, Smoke on the Water right there because it's been there forever, but if you
yep.
went down, like, there's a dessert restaurant, something Paris, um,
Oh, yeah, I couldn't tell you.
I don't know, but it's on the west end, and, like, as
Uh-huh.
you're walking down towards the ballpark, it got real sketch real fast.
Mhm. No, it definitely did. And that's one of the things about downtown's gotten so much
That was, like,
better.
5-10 years ago. Now, like, I would walk from one end to the other without a
Walk through.
problem.
You can go to the West Village, right? Now
Mhm.
I remember driving through the West. Okay, so you go. Look, I was younger in my younger days. I'm driving through the West Village at like 1 in the morning. Don't ask me why. If you're from the Greenville area, you wouldn't drive through the West Village at 1 in the morning, right? But
No.
now it's changed so much, and so downtown Green was probably the number one place, right? A lot of people see the beauty there. A lot of people feel the Greenville vibe, what the Greenville lifestyle is all about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely. I've got somebody coming into town next weekend that they're super interested in the art community and the arts and
probably the
like
art
so
district.
we're gonna go take a look at the Metropolitan Arts Center downtown,
Oh yeah.
make sure that we get connected there, probably go walk the art walk that's right there by the
Yep.
Reedy, see all the studios, go see if my friend is down there. Um, so yeah, like I think there's so many fun things and there's a lot of things for everybody. Like it's, I know you have a young family, I have a young
Mhm.
family, but at the same time, like a lot of our people that are relocating here don't have young families anymore. Like they're retired or they're close to retirement. And excuse me, like y'all are active adults. And I love
Right, exactly.
that you're not
Exactly.
retired, and I'm not calling you retired. But I think it's great. Like I love it. But anyways, cool. Well, Brian, thank you so much for hopping on here, like being able to answer a bunch of questions. Like I feel like I'm going to use this video in a replay for so many different buyers and sellers as possible options to make it a true win-win situation
Yeah.
when it comes to like house prices and interest rates. And maybe we'll have you back on here every couple of months or so just to kind of give us an update on interest rates again and
Yeah.
maybe chat about the upstate and what we love about it. So I appreciate it. And you go hug your baby for me. I'll talk to you later.
Will do. Thank you so much
Cool.
for having me.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Bye. All right, guys. So, if you are just joining us here, um, and hopping on the stream, like this is something that we just had Brian McIntosh on here from Homeowners Financial. Like I said, I'm going to put his all of his contact information in the description of this video. So please, like if you're looking for a great lender here in the area, reach out to him. He'll be able to answer any and all of your when it comes to house prices and what are they doing here in the upstate. Come chat with me. This is just one of the ways that I can help you looking to come here to the area. If you're just doing your research, I would love to answer your questions and give you ideas about the places that you just have to visit. Or you're making your decision between South Carolina or Georgia or Alabama or any of these states that you're just looking for a better place to live. So with that, I want to jump through here. I have one last fun little blurb that I'm going to share. And it is, you guys have been talking to me about Bridgeway Station. over in Malden. Now, this is hilarious, and I think it's so much fun. So this is Bridgeway Station. This is the bridge over there in Malden. And guys, if you go to Google right now, Google Maps, and you go and locate the bridge, someone literally went in and renamed it the Harambe Memorial Bridge. Now, for you guys that don't know who Harambe is, it is a gorilla that died like back in 2016, I think. And it's just one of those, like, it's a sad situation, but oh my word, what happened here? So literally, I go in here to Google Maps and I put in from Greenville, South Carolina to Malden here. I can go in here and say the Harambe Memorial Private Trail, South Carolina, and it actually goes and pulls it up. So with that, I leave you with somebody local who named the bridge after a gorilla. So it won't always stay like that. People here have a great sense of humor, I guess, and it is something that so Malden actually ran a contest for naming the bridge. They have several different names that are in the possible works for the bridge too. The Bridgeway Station over here. Let's see here: the Malden Skyway, Malden Archway, Malden Highway Overpass, Malden Gateway Bridge, Malden's Palmetto Pathway. None of them are like super happy and funny like Harambe, but I thought that was funny. So anyways, guys, gonna go ahead and last but not least, let's see here, go back, look at the comments, see if you guys have any other questions for me tonight. Robert, you are on fire with some questions here. Opinion about Alta Vista or North Main areas. So personally, and we're going to close out with any questions that you guys have. So make sure that you put them in the comments because I know that they help a whole bunch of people. Whenever you ask your question, there's not a dumb question, basically. I think we hear that all the time. So as far as Alta Vista and North Main, I think just my opinion, you're going to get the very nice established neighborhoods in Alta Vista. Definitely bigger trees, less traffic through. That's pretty much what I think of though when I think of North Main. So the North Main area, I think of homes that either there's no HOA established or there is an HOA established and it's older and it needs to have more work done. Basically, you have some pockets of areas that are really great and pockets of areas that are not so great and they're still being worked on. You have a super modern house sitting right next to another house that was built back in the 50s. And so it's very different. I think you get less of that in Alta Vista. So that's my quick opinion about that. I hope that helps. If you have specific questions or if you're looking for something, a different answer, like I'd be more than happy to hop on a call real fast, 10-15 minute call and do that. Now, I do want to go back here to this question. So as far as inventory and on the market for 30 to 45 days, and then also what about the townhome condo market? So with that, I think a lot of to do with how ready is the home. And so I use the term HGTV style. All right. The only reason I do that is because we all think of HGTV style as something that's new, shiny, pretty, and easy to move into without any work. But what we forget about is that a lot of those TV shows and such had work that was completed before the house was actually put on the market to sell quickly. So what we're seeing in the housing market here in the upstate is if it checks all of your boxes and you're absolutely in love with it, then we probably need to jump on it. Like, you need to send me a text message or pick up the phone and call me. I'm pretty decent about answering the phone, and say, Aubree, perfect house. We need to go see it. Because the thing is, our market's a little bipolar. We still have houses that are selling in multiple offers in 24 hours, 24, 48 hours. But then we also have houses that are sitting on the market for 40, 60, 120 days plus. And it's like, okay, like the house needs some new countertops, or the house needs a coat of paint on the inside. It's probably $5,000 to $10,000 worth of work, and would still appraise for the price that you're going to pay for it. And you've got sellers here that are interested in going. So your question, single family home versus townhome and condos. It really has the same rules applied, where we're looking at, is it in, what's the location? How old is the condo or townhome? Is it brand new or not? And honestly, also, who was the builder? So a lot of the townhomes that are built kind of in the Greenville suburb. So on your way out of Greenville, you're hitting Travelers Rest, Taylor's, Easley, Simpsonville, Taylor's, all those different suburbs. And we have the townhomes. I would say the closer into downtown you can get, the faster it will sell. And the farther out you get, and by farther out, I'm only talking about a 5 to 10 minute drive, houses sit for longer. So that's just kind of my thought. Is it 30 to 45 days? I'm not really sure about that. It could be upwards of 60 days. I have noticed that our average days on market across the board has increased. So we still get the one-offs that sell on a weekend and everybody's super happy, and then a contract falls out and it goes back on the market. Or it's a nice strong contract and you end up closing without a problem. So we're seeing all sorts of crazy things in the real estate world right now. That's one reason why, like, I want to have an active conversation with you guys. So if you can, leave me comments, send me an email. If you have a question you want me to address in this live stream, I will do research beforehand. That way I can come with you to like really good researched answers, and we can do that. Or if you are specifically looking to relocate to the area, you should totally reach out to the team. And the website is theaubreelewisgroup.com. We have a couple of buyer's agents. I specifically take some buyer clients still, and also work with our listings. And we have a full administrative department. I don't talk about my team that often, but they're pretty awesome people. And we all work really hard to help you guys. So we talk about what we talk about here on the live streams, on our videos, and we're really passionate about making sure that the transition from wherever you are moving from, even if it's within town or out of state, that we make it smooth, we make it to where you're confident and you feel cared for. And we do that with a high level of service. So with that, guys, it's been a pleasure. I hope tonight has helped answer some questions, maybe take some fears and make them not so fearful. I love talking to Brian. He's very, very knowledgeable about interest rates and what happens with financing in the market. And I talk to him on a regular basis, back and forth, anytime I have these questions. So with that, guys, thanks for showing up for the show tonight. And I will definitely see you next week, Thursday, 8 o'clock. Invite your friends, tell them about us, share the videos. I appreciate guys that come on here and comment and you watch the videos. I am incredibly thankful and honored for you. And I will catch you next time. Bye.